The world, once again, holds its breath because of oil. The war between America and Iran, ignited in the Middle East, is not just a war. This is a global energy crisis. The world trembles once more, in silence, deep beneath the surface. And this time, what's happening is not merely bombs exploding in distant lands. This is not a war we can casually watch on television and forget. This is a crisis reaching into the very heart of the New World. The escalating conflict between America and Iran is no longer just a military tension. It has transformed into a global energy war. And at the center of this war, there is only one thing: oil. Recent reports paint an increasingly terrifying picture. In the Middle East, critical fuel facilities have been targeted. Pipelines have been struck. Tankers have come under attack. The tension, especially in the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most strategic choke points, has brought global markets to a near standstill, because nearly 20% of the world's oil flows through this narrow passage, which means even the slightest disruption here can trigger a devastating chain reaction across the entire world. And this is exactly what is happening right now. Tankers are changing their routes. Some are stopping entirely. Insurance costs are rising. The risk is growing. The flow of oil is slowly suffocating, nearing a complete halt. And this slowdown is the whisper of a far greater catastrophe lurking just beneath the surface. Because oil is not just the fuel that keeps our cars moving. Oil is the invisible backbone of modern life. From the fertilizer used to produce the bread you buy in the morning, to the fuel powering the truck that delivers it. Everything is bound to oil. Airplanes, ships, factories, electricity production, plastics, medicines. The list goes on, endlessly. In short, without oil, the modern world as we know it could grind to a halt within days. And now, this vital resource is under a grave and looming threat. The first impact of war is always felt in rising prices. And just as expected, it happened again. Oil prices surged violently in a short time. Energy markets were shaken to their core. But the real issue is not just the price increase. The true danger is the disruption of supply. Because when prices rise, you can pretend for a while that nothing has changed. But when oil becomes physically unreachable, that's when the real crisis begins. Today, some countries are desperately searching for alternatives. Strategic reserves are being brought into focus. Energy-saving plans are being whispered behind closed doors. But experts warn, if this chaos grows and the flow of oil is disrupted for too long, it is only a matter of time before the world is struck by something far more devastating. This is not merely an economic problem. This is also the beginning of a social and political crisis. As energy prices rise, production costs follow. As production costs rise, prices in the markets surge. Inflation accelerates. People's purchasing power collapses. Companies fall into bankruptcy. Layoffs begin. And after a while, this unrest spills into the streets. Protests, civil unrest, and in some countries, even full-scale political crises may emerge. What is even more terrifying is the issue of food. Because modern agriculture is deeply, almost helplessly, dependent on oil, tractors, irrigation systems, fertilizer production. All of it demands energy. When oil prices rise, the cost of food production rises with it. And this can trigger a food crisis, especially in countries already trembling on the edge. So this war does not only affect the soldiers on the front lines, it reaches far beyond. It touches millions of people across the world. It touches us, and the risks do not end there. Crises like this begin to fracture the fragile balance of the world. Rivalries between great powers escalate rapidly, uncontrollably. New alliances are forged in the shadows, while old orders collapse into ruin. Access to energy becomes a matter of survival, a matter of national security. And this can ignite even more conflicts. What is happening today is not sudden. It is the inevitable outcome of tensions that have been building for years, festering beneath the surface. The Middle East has, for centuries, stood as the heart of the world's energy, a relentless magnet for the ambitions of great powers. And every crisis that erupts in this region inevitably sends shockwaves across the entire world, because energy is the lifeblood of the modern age. So, what could this lead to? If the conflict spirals out of control and critical choke points like the Strait of Hormuz remain disabled for too long, then a brutal surge in oil prices becomes inevitable. And that means a severe contraction in the global economy. Some experts warn that such a scenario could trigger a new economic crisis, one far deeper and far more destructive than expected. Because the world has been walking on a fragile edge when it comes to energy for a very long time. While dependence on fossil fuels continues, the transition to alternative energy remains painfully slow. And this makes every major crisis far more dangerous than it appears. What is happening right now reveals something undeniable. The world is still dependent on oil, and this dependency can suddenly push us to the edge of a new crisis. Perhaps that is why this war is not just a conflict between two nations. This is the emergence of a system beginning to collapse, proof of how fragile the global order truly is. And the most striking part is this: this crisis may reach into our lives far sooner than we expect. One morning, you may wake up and fuel prices have risen. Everything in the market more expensive. Your electricity bill higher than before. And without even realizing it, you may already be feeling the consequences of a war that began somewhere far away. That is why understanding what is happening right now has never been more important. Because this is not just a war. This is the breaking of an invisible chain. And at the end of that chain, there is all of us. Will the world be able to survive this crisis? Or is this only the first wave of a far greater storm approaching?